Yo, what is up? You have found We Like the Blazers. I am your host, Ryan Witty Whitledge, and with me, as always, is Brandon Goldner. And because one Brandon is never enough Brandons, we have invited on one Brandon Sprague from 1080 The Fan. How are you Brandons doing?
I think we're good. I think we're doing all right. Tomorrow is a therapy Tuesday. We're recording this on a Monday. So my first question to the therapist is, do people possibly want to get tag team by the same name person? There's two Brandons on this pod. It makes me wonder what Witty's up to right now. But I'm happy to be with you guys. How you doing?
I mean, I'm good. Ryan, gonna need your energy to come up just a little bit. But yeah, man, no, I'm good. I was giving
I'm
Ryan
not trying to scare kids. So, and you know, the other thing, I got to come armed with the O because again, besides two Brandons, it's two Beavers. So,
yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, suck it, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan, what year did you graduate?
I did not go to the university.
Yes.
I did not go to college
Thank
at
you.
all.
There we go.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I will humbly own that.
Sprague, you were 2014?
No, I was 2011.
2011. Okay.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be 2012 and I wasn't, but I eventually did. When is my actual graduation year? Anyways, yeah, I like that question. Just because we're not sucking at the teat of Phil Knight doesn't make Oregon State any lesser, Ryan, Mr. Nike money over there. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, we're just, you guys will rule the pack too. It's fine. It's cool.
Hey, let's not get it twisted. We're both sucking at that Phil Knight teat, just in massively different ways. You're getting a lot more milk than Oregon State, but Oregon State has also benefited from Phil Knight. What I always love is when the Duck fan that contributes $0 to the Duck Athletic Fund wants to throw it in an Oregon State fan's face of like, yeah, you won our daddy. It's like, wait, you don't even help your daddy. You're getting everything from daddy.
That's me. And I'm not going to lie. You know, it's me and my wife are both Duck fans. Neither one of us went to college or especially Oregon then. And I want to say probably about 98% of our friend group is all Beavers. And what is fantastic along that line is that it used to be the, you know, quote unquote game formerly known as the Civil War was always around my birthday. So my birthday celebrations or parties or whatnot would normally be viewing parties for the Civil War. So I would just invite all of my Beaver friends over to my house or whatever outing that we went to watch that game. And it's gone well most years. You know, there's been a few years where, you know, that I've had a few extra cocktails and chosen not to remember it, but you know, it is what it is.
It can hurt. It can hurt for sure.
Yeah. So, Sprague, part of the reason that I really wanted to have you on is because I think you have a unique perspective compared to me and Goldner about how, like, what your read is on like local fan interest. You know, I know you guys now, your shows are all up on YouTube. You can find them all, watch them all, besides that, the regular text line. But just like when you guys talk Blazers, I'm curious, like what you see as a lot of like fan reaction over the course of this, you know, quote unquote, year one of the rebuilding season.
Well, you know, I was DMing with Brandon a while back, and we were talking about like content stuff, and he had mentioned my radio show. And the funny thing about it is, like, I tell people there's other content options sometimes if I'm talking about stuff like this, but I'll also readily admit we're not a very heavy Blazer show. When they're relevant, when you can feel it in your lives. And what I mean by that is, like, there's always going to be a subsection of social media where the diehards bleed red and black, and the worst season of the best season, they're watching 65 of the 82 or more. And, you know, it looks like I'm actually, I see it sometimes, and I think it looks awesome. These fan communities that get formed on social media, I think it's really great. I have to gauge my job sometimes off of, is that what it really is? Or did I just find out the ratings dropped 60% because they went to a premium channel that nobody thought they were worth spending the money on? And they've had maybe the 3 worst year stretch arguably in franchise history, while trading away a franchise guy, while not interviewing for their open general manager vacancy, while promising trades and then trading off, and watching people that are very close in my life basically say, I can't handle this anymore. I mean, I say it on the pod I do with Danny, and I said it like maybe 3 years ago, like, we're not built for this. And I kind of was in jest, but I also just sincerely meant it. And I know there's a lot of people that listen to your podcast or anything, and they're like, this is ridiculous. This guy, I can just go off what I see in my life, and they're not much of a relevant topic. And I think people are maybe fooling themselves a little bit if they think they're that relevant right now, because this is a really tough stretch right now.
Do you think that Jody Allen et al., as in et.al., need to be mindful of that? Because Portland's a small market, right? Like, you're only going to capture a certain number of people's interests. And also, if you're not creating new fans in a small market, then you're not creating that base of people to go to games and pay for merchandise and pay for stuff and concessions at the Moda Center and yada, yada. Do you think that the Portland Trailblazers as a franchise has a shorter runway to get back to something resembling relevance than, say, a larger market, just because you need to be able to capture people's imaginations, or else you're not going to make any money? Like, do you think that that's a thing for this franchise uniquely as compared to a larger market?
I mean, I think it's always important. Market size, I kind of hate talking about market size, but in these instances, it is pretty important of what you're talking about. I was in high school when the Jailblazer era was kind of rolling to an end, right before I graduated 2005. And so obviously you had Brandon Roy, and I was watching him heavy when I was in high school because I loved watching his game. That Husky team was fun. And we used to be given tickets. I went to Park Rose, so we were Northeast. And there used to be, like, almost every game, we got 30 tickets to tonight's ball game. And, like, I didn't always get them, but, like, me and my friends would snatch them up. We would just want to go watch.
You were wearing your Ruben Boomshay jersey.
Yes. While trying to get autographs from the visiting players, because, oh man, how cool is it to see Steve Francis coming out of a tunnel? But we used to just go to those games just because they were free. Otherwise, we weren't going to pay any money we had to go to those. And so, like, does Jody care? I mean, I don't know. I don't really know if I have evidence either way. You can certainly hear that she does in some ways, and I could point to others where I'd say, I don't know. It's, at the end of the day, it's a trust. She's the face of the trust, but we've never heard the voice. I think it's a little odd to not hear an owner speak one time in she got this team in 2017, 2018. So 5, 6, maybe going on 7 years, whatever it is. Never heard her talk one time except for telling Shaden, oh yeah. Other than that, I've never heard her voice. So
beautiful.
I don't know if I have evidence that she does care or that it's important, Goldner. And, I went to a couple games last year, and I went to a Wizards game because I got free tickets. And then we paid $45 to sit like 10 rows up from baseline when Siakam made his debut with the Pacers. And I would say those two games, including the Wizards, that it was at least 89% full. And I think their actually attendance rate was pretty high. So when you have still decent attendance, even when using the secondary market, I don't know how much they really care. I will say, I think eventually you keep sucking like this. I mean, people got to see some evidence of some positivity. They don't even know if they have a franchise guy right now. So eventually, but I think right now, I don't know if that's really that important to her.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I'm super curious to see how it plays out, because, the prime demographic is always like that 18 to 24-year-old age range. And so you look at people like not us.
How dare you?
We're all
you think were you saying that's the prime demographic the Blazers are after?
Well, no, that's just always like the prime marketing demographic for any sort of like corporation, because that's always the generation where it's like they view it like that will have the most spending power or develop spending habits that go their way. But
18 to 24?
Yeah.
I think
I mean, you would
developing
actually
spending
know this
habits
better in
moving
your
forward is that part makes sense.
But like most of their advertisements during games are for family 4-packs. Their most spending power is going to be people that have more income.
But like my thing is like the generation that came up on like the Brandon Roy that like all got into basketball, like, or not Brandon Roy, sorry, the Damian Lillard era, like that were all the age that we were when we started getting into basketball. Like I kind of consider them like the younger spoiled fan base, for a lack of a better term, and now they don't know how to handle this. And I'm curious how Jody Allen can keep that interest now that that age range generation is coming into their spending power, if that all makes sense.
I will say just quickly, anecdotally, capturing the imagination of children as a sports franchise, I feel like matters. Like, I don't know what it is for you two, but for me, when did I get interested in the Blazers? When I was like 5. And my being interested when I was like 5 and 6 and 7 is now translating to me spending money today on tickets and jerseys. And now I have a podcast ? Like, so I don't know. I'm not a marketing wizard, so I don't know if for sports franchises in particular, it's important to connect with kids so that as they age and grow up, that they would spend their money, 10, 20, 30 years later. I have no idea, but maybe that's the theory.
So are you asking if you have a podcast? What are we doing right now? What is this?
He always does. He's not sure. He's not sure anybody. Are we real? Are we imagined?
No, this is real.
Shout out to Rogue Media. Shout out to Blazers Edge for giving us a platform, and shout out to Squarespace for hosting our website. But other than that, I
won't lie, Sprague. It always throws me off when like you'll every now and then like shoot me a text of like, hey, like intro too long, too loud, just random things. And it's always weird for me because like I've listened to your show from back in the days of stripper Christmas readings.
Well, that was a different time. That was a different time.
It was. But like so I've listened to you for a while, and so then it always throws me off. I was like, oh, for some reason this guy also listens to me. God, I'm sorry. I always just want to like immediately apologize.
Well, listen,
so that's where
Sprague is a big important. Yeah, Sprague's a big important man. He's on a big time crunch. He's on a schedule. So listen, I'm not going to let you escape without answering the real questions, the hard facts. Okay, you've been in radio and in sports media for a really long time. In fact, I remember kind of looking up to you when I was in OSU and you were doing OSU radio, and I've followed your career. We've talked from time to time. You have access to parts of Blazers media and parts of the Blazers franchise that people like me don't have and won't ever have. And I'm curious, how do you balance the need to maintain relationships within the team, potentially with the players, potentially with media around the team, balancing those relationships, being mindful of what you share and don't share, using your discretion so that you're not burning bridges, balancing that with the need to be as honest as you can in your reporting and in what you talk about? Because I imagine that that's something like, as someone who is not heavy into sports media, but I've been in the political adjacent realm for a while, that's something I always have to be mindful of, is how to balance that. How do you balance that? How do you balance the need to maintain relationships with the need to kind of speak your truth as you see it?
Well, real quick, too, to wrap up one part of that, though, it's nitpicky. I could talk about it for an hour, but like, I think ultimately you got to get them younger to get them hooked. 18 to 24 for most nowadays kids. And I remember when I was 18 to 24, look, we've all kind of grown up in a similar economy in our adult lives. This stuff has kind of sucked basically our entire adult life. So 18 to 24, I'm pretty broke. I just found some taxes from like 2012 and I'm like embarrassed to look at them.
I had a kid when I was 22, so there went any disposable income. So,
well, I think if you hook them early, they come back. They'll come back in spurts 18 to 24. But I think once you get a family, it's like, hey, I'm going to go back to some Blazer games. I could finally afford them, hopefully. On your relationships thing, I mean, I don't go to every game. It's hard for me. My shift is at 4 a.m. I got to wake up at 4 a.m. every day. What do you know that life? It's tough. It's brutal. You have days where you're rubbing your eyes. You're like, I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. So Friday, Saturday games that don't happen that often, those are my opportunities. And most Fridays I'm wiped by 7:00. And Saturday I got 2 kids and they got sports, and it's not easy. I'm aiming to change that this year, but I don't even know what I'd classify my relationships as. I don't have any relationship with a single player on this current roster. I remember not knowing him very well, but like being around CJ a little bit, getting to like interview him a few times, seeing him, talking a little bit in the locker room, nothing major. And, you know, he followed me on Twitter. I thought that was a big deal. The next season, I quote tweeted, responded to somebody like, we need to trade him. And I'm pretty sure that was the day he unfollowed me. So, you know, like, you're never going to win with an athlete. I remember my last year covering Oregon State, my only year covering Oregon State for Comcast. I had wrote a big article on Jared Cunningham coming out his junior year. And I wrote this whole long thing. He's athletic. The time is now. You strike while the iron's hot. He had a great college career, yada, yada, yada. One sentence. And it was like, also could benefit from one more year of college. I think shooting's a little suspect. And I had a good relationship with him. And he came up to me the day of his press conference right before. And I saw him in the gym and we were playing Pig. And he beat me. And when he beat me on the shot, he walked off and was like, and fuck your write up. And like that. And he unfollowed me. And I never talked to him really again after that, outside of asking some questions. So how do I balance it? I mean, I know I'm long winded on this. Even if somebody gets in contact with me, like last year, I talked to somebody within the organization that was telling me about Jody. And I'm like, cool. Okay, that's cool. Is she ever going to talk? Is she ever going to share a vision, share an idea? What is this hierarchy? What's the leadership structure? And it was basically like, you know, we try. And then like, but she did this, 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 and this. And it's like, those are good things to know. But also, I'm always going to be honest. It's a little easier when you don't go every day. I will admit that. But also, I've never really lived in the bubble, even when I went to the games, of like holding back my thoughts or feelings. Sometimes they massively disappoint. Sometimes they refuse to make a move they should have. Sometimes they overperform. They rebuild. You just got to be honest. And if people can't handle the honesty, I mean, people think if you tell the truth, I see this sometimes on the internet, I kind of chuckle at it. People think if you tell the truth, you get your credential. You can't blame him. He's going to get his media pass pulled. That's not how this works. Yeah. That's not how that works. You have to be like overtly racist, misogynistic, like super loudly disrespectful to somebody in the organization for you and your entity to agree to that. Otherwise, it's a massive story. So like if somebody's saying something you don't agree with, they're not saying it because they're losing a media credential. That just might be how they feel. And that doesn't always line up with how I feel, but I chuckle when I see people like, oh, he does this so he doesn't lose his media access. I'm like, well, practice is open to the public that's in the media. The games are open to the public that's in the media. They're going to go regardless. They don't lose a pass. This isn't like elementary school. And if you get caught being naughty, you're in the corner. Like, that's not how that works at all.
I've always there's some people that I think that kind of make that same kind of statement, and they make it in a decent way, in which I see them talking about like, it's not like you'll lose your media pass, but you'll lose your access, where it's like, at what point in time, it's like, if nobody wants to talk to you when you're there and you're just the kid then standing in the corner because everyone's upset at you. But at the same point in time, like, that's the job that you're signing up to do as a credentialed media member in my mind.
But there's sorry for interrupting you. There is a difference there though. Good. Like, there's not. So you just open the double doors to the locker room. A player could be mad at you all he wants. There's media scrums. You're still going to put your mic there. You're still going to get the audio. Will he want to sidle with you and talk and chop it up? Probably not. And that's the access you lose. It's not the actual going to games, media credential stuff. That just doesn't happen. I don't know. I've been doing this since 2011 and really 2010, 2009. If I did the last couple of years of college, like, I've never seen that. So, not
the
real
question is, are you subscribed to Pat Bev's podcast? That's what I really want to know.
I would. In fact, I felt bad for that lady, but I honestly would have been like, nah, not interested, just to see what his reaction would have been.
That was very strange. Just, anyway. Yeah.
New media.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, gotta love it. It's one of those things where it's like you've never had more access to players in all sports in all leagues than you do today, and I feel as though you've never known less about who authentically a guy is. Because everybody's got their own spin. You got your Draymond Greens, you got your Pat Bevs, you got all that stuff, and every player is everything is their brand and their spin, so they need their own voice, and it's. I mean, it's really a microcosm of the entirety of the world we live in, but that's a whole different friggin' rabbit hole to get down. But yeah, that's it. That fascinates me in friggin' modern day sports. That Pat Bev thing, dude, I could not have been more fascinated by that. Brandon, we'll get you out of here on this. How disappointed in you, or how disappointed are you in our frickin' Minnesota Timberwolves? I mean, come on. I was boasting about that. I was like, that's it, Wolves in 5. To come out with that frick.
No, it was a bad performance, but they also got. I mean, the one thing I think I overlooked that a lot of people probably overlooked is Luka's been there before and Luka's come up short. Luka is a prodigy, man. Like, that dude was winning Euro titles when he was 16.
He's one of the few people who, like, legit, when you're like, oh wow, he really performs and the lights are bright, he actually does and has been for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you can make good cases of a few players. He's definitely, to me, in my life. Did my camera just go off? What's happening there?
Yeah, that's all right.
Difficulties.
He, to me, like in my lifetime, he's as good as anybody in the clutch. Like, you know, there's a handful of players that people can say they got to actually watch and see. And he's without a doubt in that conversation of, like, I get to talk about how I saw Luka, and he was doing it at a young age. Even when he lost in the first round, it was like 36, 9, and 8, like against the Clippers. That's insane. So I shouldn't have overlooked him so easily, and it's probably why I'm going to be let down by it. But I'm going to pull for the Mavs just because Boston doesn't need to win anymore.
I agree with that as a Patriots fan. Boston needs no more championships, but I can't root for anybody. I'm finding myself. It's the meteor. I need the meteor. I need it back. I'm rooting for.
Well, I know I have a coworker. She lives and works in Boston, and she's always like, well, she makes everything about Boston, and I love her. But, like, sometimes I'm like, yo, the Patriots are terrible. We do not need to talk about the Patriots. So I don't know. I think the media there pisses me off. The coverage of everything. I don't know. I just go Mavs. Unfortunately, it's go Mavs.
Is it because of Luka? That's my question. Because, like, for me, it's like Luka, he has a bit of it's his flopping, it's his arrogance. I mean, I call him White Harden, but for me, I think it's Kyrie. Kyrie has always annoyed me as a player for as good as he is, but I think he's the reason that I cannot get behind the Mavs. And I really want to, because I love Mark Cuban with, like, a very odd passion, but it's Kyrie for me.
Kyrie, listen, Kyrie's been on his best behavior this year, and good for him. And by the way, like, Luka being White Harden, like, again, like we were just talking about, Luka actually does well in high pressure playoff games. That's not something that James Harden has ever been known for. So again, how dare you? Like, I'll just say this, like, no, shut up after this.
Did you how dare me for having an opinion?
Yeah, you're not allowed to have an opinion unless it agrees with mine. Duh. I'm sorry if this makes me a terrible person. I enjoy watching Luka play. It is so much fun watching his ability to move and create shots, like the step back that he had over Gobert. I must have slowed that down and watched that no fewer than 30 different times. That each move that he made, if you looked at it in isolation, was very credible that it was setting up a particular thing until the moment that he moved to do something else, to fake, to set up a particular thing. And it was incredible. Like, again, like, if that makes me terrible for liking Luka Doncic, then so be it. Like, I have been enjoying them. It is go Mavs for me. Let's do quick predictions. Mavs in 6. Mavs in 6.
Yeah, by the way, like, you should be ashamed of yourself. You can't show me one closeout game where Harden did what Luka did to Minnesota in Minnesota. You have zero evidence on that. And I don't like the flailing, the flopping, the ref baiting. I hate that. I do. He has moments where he doesn't do it. But come on, man. Like, I know you didn't just call him White Harden as if Harden has an eighth of the resume that dude does at 25 years young. Come on.
That is my,
what are we
that is my
about?
zero opinion, zero evidence. Hill I will die on.
Yeah.
I just cannot get past it.
That hill's crumbling, my friend.
I'm not excited about this because, like, I don't think I'm going to be particularly happy when one wins. One will piss me off more. I want to go Mavs in 7 because Luka's a killer, and I hope that they put Drew on Kyrie because that's what OKC was able to successfully do, was kind of figure out Kyrie, which is what made that series better. If you go look at the numbers, they weren't actually better defensively against Luka. It was a Kyrie thing. Boston's got the dogs to do it, especially if KP comes back. I'm hoping Mavs in 7. My gut says it's going to be Celtics in 7. That they're such a good team. They're so complete. We get a partial championship banner next year for Joe just gift wrapping Drew Holiday to them for torn ACL and a veteran that we're going to trade for hopefully a decent or crappy pick. Like, we just gift wrapped them a treasure as almost kind of a double FU to Miami again, and then to Milwaukee for like, okay, I gave you Dame, but like, I'm not making this easy on you. Here you go. Here's Drew Holiday to Boston.
To be fair, I mean, Drew Holiday also not particularly known for his playoff performance. I think his playoffs in 2024 have been better than the historical average for him anyway. But yeah.
Holiday?
Right. Yeah.
Did you watch the Pelicans Blazers series?
Yeah. I was when was that? 2018? That was a long time ago.
What did Dame? They were a 3 seed. They got swept by the 6 seed because of him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going off a 1 year sample size, Sprague. I'm going off of multiple
Milwaukee.
years. Yeah, I know. I'm not. Listen, I'm not saying he's trash. I'm just saying that, like,
pick while you guys are bickering.
Drew Holiday will be in a conversation of, I can't believe he never won a Depoy. Shame on the Depoy voters. Every year it's like, who was the fastest big man? And it's just like, cool, you give it to a guard every 30 years. Like, hey, here's one for Jordan. Here's one for Gary. Here's one for Marcus Smart. Every year it's a 7-2 guy. And it's like, they're good. We know they're good. But then you see what Luka does in a game winner where you say it's poetry watching him set that move up. I'm in my living room. Play the 3. He's shooting a 3. Everybody and their mom knew he was shooting a 3. I would have rather him gone around him and got an easy lob to tie the game than to allow a walk-off shot that basically settled the series.
All I'm saying is if you go to Basketball Reference, you're going to see that Drew Holiday came up small in a good number of playoff series over the years. And so, again, I'm not saying it means that he's bad or anything, but
I want to give CJ McCollum a retirement for having a game 7 in his life. And I'm just like, the greatest game maybe my eyes have ever seen, a 55-point efficient night by Dame Lillard, and his running mate didn't know where the out-of-bounds line was. But he won a game 7, so we need to retire the number. I hear what you're saying, but this is where basketball.
I'm not defending CJ McCollum.
Basketball. No, what my point is this. Basketball Reference, you know what they don't see on there? Your eyeballs. I've watched that man do incredible things in his career, including in the East Final. His numbers don't speak to his impact.
I think that's totally fair. That I have unfounded Luka takes and Goldner has unfounded Drew Holiday takes.
We'll save it. Ryan, where do you think this finals is going? Come on.
Boston in 6. I switched the hat. Okay, I got the Patriots hat on. It'll be Boston in 6. I think I can stomach that more.
Are you a Celtic fan?
No, I'm not. But
why are you wearing a Patriot hat?
Okay, because I'm making my pick. This is as close as I can come to declaring to a school.
It's like wearing a duck hat and picking the Chargers to win on Sunday. Like, what are you doing?
I also have good authority that Ryan is a Ryobi jabroni as well, and that's very Boston-esque. So yeah.
This is true. It is the green colors, but I also weigh this decision with what do I want to hear more of in the off season, and I think the thing what do I want to hear less of? The thing I want to hear less of in the off season is how Boston failed and what they need to do to fix it. I think I'd much rather deal with the Boston celebration than everybody trying to dissect where Boston dropped the ball.
Brother, they've won like 10 titles in 15 years of your life. Why do you need another title in Boston so they can not hear the narrative? I want the narrative to be loud and clear. Can you win it with Tatum as your best player? Or Has Jaylen Brown become their alpha? And is this a series where he takes another MVP from Tatum and it's like, whoa, what are we doing here? Making some people a little bit uncomfortable.
All right. Well, I'm going to stand by my Boston in 6. You two, at this point in time, I think I'll just owe either of you a sandwich bet on this. If
I'm not making a bet on this series.
No, okay, fine. Here. I'll just own up to it. You don't have to pay me out a sandwich. I'll buy you guys both a lunch if Dallas closes it out. Oh, you're $1.
Got a crisp one on this.
If you make it $2, then you can get one trip to the rack at Casas. Just
I know you guys are tagging me out here, but I'm deeply ashamed and offended. You didn't ask me my thoughts on the 2024 draft prospects and all the mocks. I'm deeply offended by that.
Well, if I could remember any of the names of anybody who stepped in the practice facility for a workout, I would have been more than happy to ask you about them. But I got nothing. Every time I read the new list, I'm like, who?
Yeah, I've been grinding that YouTube tape, man. You know, those 12-minute highlight videos, they do everything for me and really sum it all up.
Are you on the Klingon bandwagon? Are you going to buy that narrative of that apparently the Blazers have interest in him?
I'm in whatever the best player that you take possible on your board. I couldn't care less if it was Reed Shepherd or Donovan Klingon. Give me the best possible player. You won 21 games. You are not a team in a position to be sitting here acting like you need a certain position. Would I prefer a tall guy? Absolutely. But if Joe and Schmitz and the Crone Zone think that Reed Shepherd's available and he's the best talent, take the best talent and figure it out at some point.
Yep. You got to make all the players kind of earn their spot at this point in time in your rebuild. Well, Sprague, you hung around a little extra. I very much appreciate the time and the conversation. And you got a lot of coals and a lot of fires. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find all of your different various works?
Yeah, it's on the internet somewhere.
Just Google Sprague and you'll find somewhere that you're doing between a betting show or and are you guys doing an OT show? So do you guys leave the studio and then go record in your own respective kitchens? Is that what I've seen now?
I record actually in front of my hostage wall here, and yeah, we're doing extra stuff on the YouTube for the radio station. Jack Ramsey's and the show every morning, 6 to 9 a.m., Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan. So that, and then the gambling show on Sunday evenings, if you want to listen. We just talk general gambling of sports, back to the futures, play on the futures there with the gambling aspect. So, yep, you can find all that stuff wherever you get podcasts or audio or video or whatever.
All right. Well, thank you, Sprague, and we will chat with you later.
All right. Thank you. My attorney will be in touch for the overtime work I just did today.
Will do. You can just invoice us like Cohen. All right, and we're back. Once again, thank you, Brandon Sprague, for your time, effort, and energy in joining our little adventure here that we call a podcast, question mark, as one Mr. Goldner would say.
We love you, Brandon. But he's one of my favorite people and has been for a long time. And not just saying that to kiss ass. He's a good dude, and yeah, appreciate his time.
No, he is. And, you know, it's one of the things, like, a big part of the reason that I am such a big fan of 1080 The Fan is because, you know, all of their hosts throughout all of their shows, you know, Brandon and Sprague, Danny and Dusty, Isaac and Suk, all of them in any fan event or anything that I've gone to or any relationships I've built with them have always made themselves so incredibly approachable, and they're honest in their conversations about things, and they're
willing to help. They're willing to help people even if they don't think it's going to benefit them. They help people because they want to be helpful, and to me, that's like the biggest.
Oh, I didn't even realize that was somewhere.
The Patriot hat you got called out for just a moment ago by Sprague, but like seriously, like the people who are willing to kind of extend a hand down and lift other people up, like to me that matters a lot, and that's something he's always done. So yeah, anyway, just
for me, I've always appreciated the fact that as I've over the years met these individuals in person, it's, you know, a lot of people, you know, and this can kind of go for, you know, all walks of life kind of thing, but like people that you see in the media, to some degree you assume that there's a persona or a personality that they're putting out there and that they're selling. And all the guys from the station, all the shows that I mentioned, that has not been the case in any of my interactions with him. And Sprague is definitely one of my favorite. Him and I, chat regularly, but so I greatly appreciate his time. And don't worry, we will have the intro music on point for you, Sprague, for this episode after your feedback text.
Another sign of respect is giving people honest but empathetic feedback. I want to say one more thing about the persona. So Cassie and I traveled to the metropolis of Lincoln City, Oregon, to do open casting for Survivor. Here's what I have to say about that.
By the way, real quick, was that based off of my info that I gave you?
No, although I did appreciate it.
Bless America.
I know, I would love to lie.
I was totally taking credit for that.
We were watching Survivor and the commercial came up. Hey, we're having open casting in Lincoln City. And we're like, we should go. And we're like, nah, we're not going to go. And then we're like, why not? And so we did. And we're normal people. We agonized over it. We got stressed over it. And we thought about what to say. My point is this. If you're given 60 seconds to talk about yourself and tell the story of yourself in a way that's compelling for TV, but you could come up with 5, 10, 15 or more different 60-second ways to describe yourself. All of them would be honest and all of them would be very different. And so it was interesting to me to internalize that just because I'm giving this 60-second spiel about myself, it doesn't make it fake. It doesn't make it phony. It's simply that's what I'm able to share in those 60 seconds. And I think of that the same way we do the podcast. Like, I'm a little bit energetic and kind of goofy, and I'm not always that way all the time in real life, but that's a part of who I am, and I embrace that and I enjoy it. And so, yeah, and then you do have, on the other hand, I hate to offend this person in case we try to get them on the podcast. Just kidding. Stephen A. Smith, who plays a character. He plays a character. He plays it very well. Oh, yeah. He's played a character for a long time, and that's okay too. Right. But there are people who genuinely are just themselves and how they approach their work. And I think that's what you're saying. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to, that was my.
And a lot of that goes back to the conversation that, when I brought up the topic with Sprague, when I was like, a lot of players these days are, they're their brand. And, that's where you get the Pat Bevs. Have you listened to my podcast? That kind of stuff. Like they're,
oh man,
it's the guy who's not going to
take our invite to come on the show.
You think those emails would go unread? Should I send some follow-ups? Should I circle back around?
They would go particularly unread, I believe. Yes.
One person that I'd be curious on if we can get on, and this would probably
Neil
this
Olshay.
Would complete. He would come on until the point that he saw my face on the other side of this camera. I thought about
people who I would actively and outright reject, and he was one of them. It's like I would not.
I reject no one. Everyone is welcome.
I'm rejecting
Everyone
Neil
is accepted.
Neil, if you're listening from your man cave in Lake O, you're not coming on the show, buddy. No way, no how.
That not is fine. Here's how that's going to go. That's a solo one-on-one with me and Neil, and you are forced to edit it and post it.
I am not. In fact, you could not make me.
Gosh, I'm gonna have to just send that straight over.
I would release it as a special throwback episode of I Like the Blazers with only Ryan.
I just send that straight to Rogue Media. I'd be like, "Hey, Brandon's sick. I don't know how to edit. I'm gonna need you to do."
Oh this. Jesus, they would do it too.
But one person that would satisfy a very passionate Venn diagram of ours would be Senator Ron Wyden, who just came out with a piece in the Oregonian today. So that would tickle our political interest as well as our Blazers interest, saying that he believes that the Blazers need to erect a statue of Bill Walton and Maurice Lucas.
For people watching on video, I hope you did not see the gesticulation I made immediately before that.
Sadly I did. But he did a guest column in the Oregonian where he was, obviously referencing the recent passing of Bill Walton and And he was saying, he said, just as important for and the trail that Bill blazed on the court, never willing to be silent, always ready to use a platform as a player to speak out against injustice and for the equal treatment of both Black Americans, Native Americans, as well as protect our earth. And in that magical 1976-77 season with the Blazers, Bill and new teammate Maurice Lucas befriended each other, and it just talks about their relationship from there and like how he believes that they deserve a statue because they both represent what the Portland Trail Blazers represent and then what the spirit of the city of Portland represent. And I'm curious to get your take on this, because we have all long had the discussion of who deserves the statue outside of Moda.
I think that is as good a place to start as any, right? Like Mo Lucas, the on the court enforcer and kind of the salty to the sweet of the Bill Walton, if you will. And yeah, like obviously those two were very, very close. They mean a lot. And Mo Lucas also was connected to the Blazers organization for a long time after his playing career up until his death. Yeah, I'd be into that. Also would be into getting Senator Wyden on the show. I'm not kidding. I think that is not outside the realm of possibility. So, whatever. But yeah, and Wyden has been like a long time, very vocal Blazers and sports fan. So yeah, shout out to him. Also, speaking of people we'd like to get on the show, although he's already been scooped by Corey Dickman of the Rip City Roundtable, Mike Barrett. If you have not caught the latest episode of Rip City Roundtable, you need to check that out, Mike Barrett. Turns out that Mike Barrett's wife was an elementary school teacher in the school in which Corey attended when he was a child and got free tickets to the game because of it. Anyway, a really interesting conversation. Mike, someone who grew up in Albany, which is a stone's throw away from Corvallis, where I grew up, not grew up, but like spent middle school and high school years there. Anyway, yeah, good stuff.
Can I? This just kind of dawned on me, and it's going to be an awkward little circle back, but I think I have a good statue pitch. And I don't think that...
No, you cannot have a statue.
Well, F you.
No statues for you.
All right. Well, that's going to be awkward when that arrives at your doorstep in 2 to 4 weeks. Custom marble.
Wow. I like it. If you sent me a custom marble life-size statue of you, would I place it somewhere in our yard? I think the answer is yes. It's just a matter of where. And
even if it was
weird.
Naked?
Probably especially so, right?
Anyway,
it's amazing what they can do with marble nowadays, Ryan. They can really get the vasculature anatomically correct.
Yeah, unless you zoom and enhance on your pictures. Anyways. No, my statue pitch is I don't think that the Blazers should do a singular person statue. I think there's been enough debate over the years that you could get a somewhat like mid-game in the paint, even if it's kind of like players going against players, mosaic of a statue with like a Jack Ramsey off to the side kind of in the statue with a Bill Walton, a Maurice Lucas, a Brandon Roy, a Damian Lillard, and this is where I'm now find me a fourth to finish this out. Like get a starting five in like some sort of like basketball scrum, even if it's like a jumping for a tip ball with a coach on the background, but your 5 most influential basketball players in Trailblazers history with their most influential coach, and do that as an all-in-one statue, as opposed to necessarily going about like, oh, who are we going to build this statue of first? Who gets the first statue? I think it should be a group thing.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's just a matter of who's in the group, right? So like, and also
Scottie Pippen's the fourth for me. Just gonna, no, I'm, Arvydas Sabonis. There we go. Which I know you now have a lot of big men involved in this, but still, I mean, if you're talking about influential basketball players, I don't think you can find a lot of argument in Damian Lillard, Brandon Roy, Arvydas Sabonis, Maurice Lucas, and Bill Walton. Oh, unless Clyde Drexler somewhere.
No,
sorry.
It's hard.
I cannot believe. I would actually say Drexler over Maurice Lucas.
Well, okay, listen, this is all very difficult, right? Because as soon as you start saying, I want a statue of X, then you say, what about Y? What about Z? What about A? What about B? Right? That's what it turns into, this snowballing effect of you've disrespected player whomever because you don't have a statue of them. I would be very much into the idea of like an eras statue. To your point, multiplayer, you have the era of the championship. You have the era of the multiple finals appearances. Perhaps this is where it gets questionable.
Drexler.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
I'm just going to count this up as you're going up the eras. I'm just going to keep track.
Here's where it becomes a debate. I think that there's no denying that if like two of the eras have to be the championship and the multiple finals appearances in the 90s, right?
You need Rashid from the Jailblazers then.
Well, here's the thing. This is where it gets tricky, right? Because then you're like, well, what about we were 6 minutes away from the finals in the year 2000. We blew a 15-point fourth quarter lead to the Lakers. Do you include that era of team? Do you include the Brandon Roy era, this kind of unfulfilled promise of what could have been with Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Greg Oden? Do you include the Damian Lillard era, who, yes, he reached the second round for the first time in 14 years, as the call from Mike Breen so famously goes, but ultimately the Blazers never made it to another finals. And so it becomes difficult, Ryan, is what I'm saying. And if it were me,
you have five eras and five very influential players in those eras in what you just named. What you named, you had Walton, you had Drexler, you had Wallace, you had Roy, and you had Lillard. There's your five. There's your basketball court.
That's fine. And me personally, I'm fine with that. What I'm saying is that it would spark this annoying kind of like, well, what about blah, blah, blah? And like, so if it were me
personally, I'd get rid of Brandon Roy and put in Rudy Fernandez, but that's just,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Jesus is not making it in the statue. Sorry.
Who was the second half of the Spanish connection? It was Rudy and
Sebastian Telfair.
No, the Spanish connect, Sergio Rodriguez. It was Rudy and Sergio. Let's get them both in there. Listen, the more statues, the merrier. And here's what really matters to me. And it's kind of like we talked about Sprague with small markets and needing to create and maintain a fan base for a small market. We need a better connection between what's happening today and what the team has done. That connection, because many players have felt aggrieved as they've left Portland. And then unfortunately, we've had quite a few legends who have passed away. But that connection is pretty tenuous. So when you have a player, for example, like Brandon Roy, who seems to be more open, right, to being involved in the franchise, when you have a player like Damian Lillard, who despite getting traded says that he would love to retire here, he maintains a residence here, you can still purchase, Ryan, a vehicle from Damian Lillard Toyota and still shoot hoops on their basket in their lobby. That it's all the more important that the team create and maintain those connections, because without them, what do we have really? That's the thing. So whether it's a statue or something else,
and two hoops.
That is true. Okay. How are we feeling? Are we getting where are we with this?
I think we could wrap it up unless you have any sort of a hot Zach LaVine thoughts and theories, seeing as that the Bulls have suddenly realized that his asking price is, or the market for him is significantly worse than what they were holding out for. And
good luck, Chicago. Yeah.
This reminds me of the Raptors, where they originally were like, no, Siakam and OG, it is going to take
who are much better players and a better value, by the way. So Zach LaVine's going to be a tough sell.
It's going to take a Brinks truck to get them. And then it was like, Brinks truck is now like a 1984 Cadillac. So...
Or like a 2010 Prius in cobalt blue, if it were. Not that I just bought touch-up paint for such a car. No, I got nothing else. Like, I appreciate Brandon Sprague coming on the show. I appreciate all of you for listening. If you want to reach out to us, you can always do that Are we good? We're good. That's my bit.
That's awkward. You got to keep that in now.
Yeah, that's my bit. My bit is to begin doing it and then be like, are we good? You can always reach out to us at WeLikeTheBlazers.com or at WeLikeTheBlazers@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at LikeTheBlazers. You can find me at GoldenRPDX. You can find him at The Witty Ryan. That's it for now. Until next time, appreciate you all. Thank you, and Go Blazers.
Go Blazers. Not the Mavs. Not the Celtics. Go Meteors.
Go Mavs. Mavs at 6.